Norman Bates, murderer. Freddy Krueger and Leatherface, murderers. Chucky from Child's Play and Jason Voorhees, murderers. Jack Torrance, a murderer who also attempted to kill his own family. Carrie, a murderer that is soaked in blood. Hannibal Lecter, a murderer that also is a cannibal. Pennywise, a killer of children. The Grady twins, children that were killed. Negan from The Walking Dead, a murderer that prefers to use a bat wrapped in barbed wire. The Suicide Squad, murderers for the most part, and also they have suicide in their name. Now I'm starting this video off this way because I want to make it very clear up front for people that try to say that collectibles are just toys. I want you to look at me with a straight face and tell me that you think it would be okay to market these figures here to kids. Obviously, the answer would be no. These are not toys. There is a difference between toys and collectibles, and these are clearly collectibles. Now, it is very common to see collectibles sold along with toys, and I think that makes a lot of sense because they are manufactured in a similar way. And then also, still though, I think you should be able to see the difference between a toy and a collectible because despite a young age being on the packaging, if it was really meant for kids, it would be things that they're more familiar with. And a lot of the collectibles out there, they are characters that these younger kids are not even familiar with at all. They're characters that have been around for decades and that people grew up with. Also, with some of the collectibles, especially when it comes to Marvel Legends, Mezco, some other figures as well, they come with these smaller pieces that clearly would not be marketed towards kids because we know there's the issue of kids swallowing small parts and things like that. And sometimes that age, the age will reflect on the packaging because of that. But again, I think it's very easy to see the difference between toys and collectibles. But like I said, I know that a lot of times you will see collectibles sold amongst toys, and it just makes sense because they're manufactured in a similar way, sent out to the stores in a similar way. And then along with that as well, think about this. Kids are not going out. They're not driving themselves to the stores by themselves. They don't have the money by themselves. And, they're not going out there hunting by themselves. They have their parents along with them. So basically this becomes like a family thing, and I see this a lot with hunt videos on YouTube where you see families going out looking for things together. It just makes sense, so it makes a lot of sense to have the collectibles and toys right amongst each other. It's just like, thinking of it in the opposite way. Like you think about the grocery store. Grocery store, you don't really think of that as a place for kids, but they do have things within there that will appeal to kids, especially up front by the register. They want those impulse buys. They want kids saying, mommy, can I have this? So there are things there to appeal to the kids. And just like within toy stores and collectible shops, all these different things where the toys are, they have things that are going to appeal to adults as well. That's just called smart business, trying to maximize profit, trying to maximize that interest to get the profits. Now, I know that some people will say, well, some people do collect toys, and yeah, still though, it's all about, to me, whether it's interactive or not. And that really comes down to the individual, whether they choose to make it interactive or not. Now, for me personally, I definitely don't look at Funko Pops as something that is interactive. As a matter of fact, I had a situation before where I had some Pops that really didn't fit in my collection. And I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and I remember I handed one of them, it was either a Dorbs or a Pop figure. And you'll see this with kids, if you try to hand them one of these figures, a question that you are very likely to hear is, what does it do? Because kids are used to things that are very interactive. And again, I don't look at these most collectibles in that way. Now, there are some collectibles that you do have to pose and everything like that, but again, once it's posed, people just leave it alone. It's not really an interactive thing. But there are some toys that become collectibles, because they have nostalgia attached to them. Now, personally, I can't really afford it, but trust me, if I had the money, and I could go back and get some of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures, I would love to have those and display them. I wouldn't be on the floor playing around with them, but I would really like to have those for the sake of nostalgia. So that turns a toy into collectible when it has that nostalgia to it. And it can be something that is newer as well. If you just have, some connection with it and you want to have it displayed, then that's a collectible. That's the big thing with collectibles. They are meant to be displayed. Same thing goes for Hot Wheels. Now with Hot Wheels, of course, there are some adults that collect them, and really I feel like they are very much geared towards adults at this point. There are a lot of properties that Hot Wheels focuses on that appeal to adults. They have chase variants now. Again, not really something that kids are so worried about. That is definitely for adults. You don't see, a bunch of adults down on the carpet, vroom, vroom, sliding the cars around. No, they display them. So again, there's definitely a big difference between toys and collectibles are definitely mainly geared towards adults. I actually think nostalgia is the biggest factor when it comes to collecting. For people that say they don't get collecting, it's really not that difficult to understand. And also, I got to point this out real quick. If you don't understand it, then why are you criticizing? Because to me, that doesn't make sense to criticize something you don't really get. If you just don't get it, then you really wouldn't have an opinion about it. So if you don't understand it, then why even put it down? That does not make any sense at all. But as I was saying, I think nostalgia is the biggest factor. And again, a lot of these collectibles are things that kids would not even really be familiar with, or things they would not have an attachment to. And some people just you have to experience it for yourself to really understand it. Like, I think most people, when they buy their first pop figure, like immediately it clicks, because they realize, now I have this thing to look at that's going to remind me of something that I am a fan of. And that's what collecting is about. You're really surrounding yourself with things that you're a fan of. It's just a really positive feeling. I mean, sometimes I'm just walking around and I glance at certain figures in my collection and it just makes me smile. It's something that makes me happy. And that's really what it comes down to. It's that nostalgia that you have. It brings back those happy memories. And it's a very cool thing within that way. Now, for anybody criticizing collecting, whether you're saying that somebody's too old or they're wasting their money, wasting their time, and by the way, I did a video about that also, people complaining about the money and time put into collecting. I already addressed that previously. But for anybody complaining about it, basically what you are trying to do is to step in the way of other people's fun. And there is absolutely nothing cool about that. As long as people are having fun without hurting other people, without basically overlooking their responsibilities, as long as they're doing something that is safe, and especially if they're it's from their own wallet, their own money, there is no reason to try to get in the way of that. That's simply called being a hater. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, there are a lot of people that are hateful towards collectors, and it's absolutely ridiculous. It makes no sense at all to me. Now, I do want to speak directly to my fellow YouTubers that focus on collecting, because I'm sure, at some point, if it hasn't happened already, you will have some haters that will come to your channel and say you're wasting your money, you're too old, and this and that, But I really want to encourage people to block these negative people. You need to do that. I think that's the best thing to do, is just to block them and ignore them. And the reason why is because, for one thing, I want to be very blunt about this. Most of these haters are kids. They're kids. I mean, you look at the numbers with YouTube, the viewership, it is primarily kids. So it's very easy for kids that have mommy and daddy taking care of everything. They don't have to worry about earning money. They don't have to worry about buying things for themselves. It's very easy for them to sit back and judge other people and say you're too old and this and that, and they don't understand adults having fun. I guess for some kids, when they think about adults having fun, they don't think about them being into things that they are somewhat into. Because obviously, there is some crossover with the things that people collect and with what kids are interested in. For example, I collect Marvel figures, and I know that there are some kids that are into the Marvel characters. You know what I'm saying? So there is some crossover there. And I think because of that, sometimes kids do get jealous when they're looking at adults that have all these awesome figures, and they're constantly uploading these videos where they're showing off awesome things that they've obtained. Yeah, there's definitely some jealousy there. But again, don't let that bring you down. If you are a YouTuber that is focusing on collectibles, ignore a lot of that hate, because like I said, a lot of it is coming from jealous kids. And they definitely should not be trying to tell you how to spend your money when they don't even have to worry about earning money. That makes no sense. And even if it is other adults that are criticizing you, they don't have a right to put you down either, because again, it's your money. You do what you want to with your money, and it does not matter how old you are, because you're just doing something that is fun for you. I think some people have this misconception that when it comes to adults having fun, they have to be doing things that are considered, for adults, like going out and having a glass of wine, or going golfing or something like that. And I'll tell you this, people, adults don't have to pick and choose. If you are an adult, you absolutely have the right to go out on a pop hunt, come home, drink some beer, eat some cookies before you eat your dinner. You do what you want to because you are an adult. And I hate this fact that there are some people that try to keep adults from being adults. If you're an adult, you get to decide how you want to have fun. And like I said, as long as you're doing it in a safe way that's not harming anybody else and your responsibilities are taken care of, nobody has the right to criticize the way that you have fun. Throughout this video, I am going to show you some more of my collection, because I really want you to see that there are even more examples, and to prove basically that these collectibles are really not geared towards kids. For example, I have a special section that's basically focusing on Harley Quinn in my collection, which I've been showing off kind of recently. And that particular character is definitely not meant for, she's definitely not geared towards kids, because she's often scantily clad. Her backstory is very rough. She has an abusive, well, at least had an abusive relationship with the Joker. She is definitely not a character that is geared towards kids. Now, there has been an alternate version of her that's geared towards kids. They did the I think it was like DC Supergirls or something like that. I can't remember the exact name, but I know they basically did these variations of the characters to appeal to kids. But think about that. Just the fact that they had to do this variation, that shows you that originally they're not really geared towards kids. I mean, if you think back to Batman the Animated Series, which is where Harley Quinn debuted, that was a very mature series. It may not have always had, very like mature things going on, like the language and violence and things like that, but still, it is something that I think adults processed a lot more than kids could. So again, a lot of these characters and the things that I'm into are really not geared towards kids. And that does include also, like, I have a Predator collection, I have Rick and Morty, even Bob's Burgers, which I know is part of like Fox's Sunday night. But if you know about Fox's Sunday night shows like Family Guy is definitely not for kids, and Bob's Burgers goes right along with that. Now, Bob's Burgers is not as crazy as Family Guy gets, but there's still a lot of language in it. There's a lot of innuendo, so again, it's not really geared towards kids. And I like collecting these types of things because, again, it reminds me of things that I'm a fan of. Saga is another part of my collection I have, and like I said, you'll see these different things throughout the video. But Saga, I also read the graphic novels. I had the figures, and a lot of times when I get a comic, when I buy a comic and I'm showing it in the video, I'll show you the cover, then I might show you a little bit of the artwork on the inside. I've never opened up a Saga comic on my channel to show you the inside, because there is no telling what will be on those pages. It is a very mature series. So, again, the figures, they relate to this very mature series. So these are obviously something that, not meant for kids. And that's what I'm really trying to get across to you all. Like I said, with collectibles, these things are definitely geared towards adults. And you got to realize as well that, let's say the average person lives around the age of 80. I know it's, different age ranges are, different averages they say for different types of people and everything. But let's just go with the number 80. Okay, so let's say that you live to at least 80 years old. You are a child, at least a child that's very cognizant of who you are. Let's say from the age of like 2 or 3, up until your teenage years, where you start to get more into things that are more mature than, whatever. That is a very short span of your life. We're talking about, less than 15 years maybe, where you could be called a kid, where you're straight up called a kid, So again, it's a very small fraction of your life. The majority of your life, you are an adult. So for people that are trying to stand in the way of basically, adults having fun in the way that they want to have fun, that is absolutely ridiculous. No, adults deserve to have fun. And if, collecting figures makes them happy, then so be it. There is nothing wrong with that at all. Something else that I want, YouTubers to specifically think about is when you have people coming to your channel that are trying to put you down and saying you're too old to collect, you're throwing your money away, whatever it may be, I want you to really ask yourself this. Now, like I already said, I think it's best to just block those individuals, but I do want you to think about this. How did they find your video? Because I think we all know how YouTube works. If somebody is checking out a certain type of video on a regular basis, it gets suggested to them. And I think for a lot of us, when we have haters come to our channel, it's been suggested to them because they have an interest in collecting, obviously. Even if they are doing a search, if they're doing a search, it's got to be something related to collecting, and that's how they come across your channel. So again, these people are basically, whether they're young or old, going out of their way to be hateful. And the big deal about YouTube that I always say is, if you don't like something, you don't have to watch. So if somebody says they don't like Funko, or they don't think you should be collecting, they think you're wasting your time, you're too old to do this, whatever it is, the big question is, then why did you click on my video? How did you even find my video? So, you could ask these questions if you want to, but I'm going to say this again, and this is why I really stress that it's best to just block the haters and move on, is because you're not going to get an intelligent answer. If somebody starts off with negativity and ugliness, do not expect an intelligent response. And this is something I always say to myself as well, and I have to check myself sometimes, because you can get caught up in it, going back and forth with people. But when it comes down to it, there is nothing intelligent about arguing with stupid people. Just to be real, there is nothing intelligent at all about arguing with stupid people, because you're not going to get intelligent responses. So again, for these haters that keep trying to put down people that are collecting and not really harming, they're not harming anybody, ignore them. They don't even deserve the attention. They don't even deserve the right to comment on what you're doing, because if they don't like it, they don't have to view it. There is one more thing I feel I need to address, and this might be a little bit off topic, but yeah, it does kind of relate as well. So another issue that I know that YouTubers run into, YouTubers that have channels that focus on collectibles, will sometimes have parents say to them, my child watches your content, could you please watch what you say and this and that or whatever, which to me, just to be blunt about it, that is very backwards. It makes a lot more sense to monitor your child than to try to monitor a YouTuber. And to try to monitor all YouTubers. That doesn't make any sense at all to me. And to be honest, some people that do that, I don't even think that's really so much about trying to protect what your child is seeing. I think that's kind of being a hater at the same time. You're trying to tell another adult how to run their channel. No, that doesn't make any sense at all. If you really have an issue with it, monitor your child. I know that there are some some parents that they let their children have a cell phone, a tablet, whatever it may be, and then they just let them go off on their own with it, which I personally think is a risky thing to do. It just is a risky thing to do. You have, all these options, though, to basically monitor what your child is being, presented with. Look over their shoulder. There are parental controls as well. Companies really protect themselves. They put a lot of things in place for parents to have that option to censor things as they see fit. So again, it doesn't make sense to go to the YouTuber complaining. Keep things right in your own home, because again, most of these people with collecting channels, these are adults, and I don't like people trying to push adults around. And I know part of the reason that this is happening is because YouTubers are so easily accessible. You drop something down in the comments, more than likely that YouTuber is going to see it, unless they have hundreds of thousands of subscribers and they can't keep up. More than likely they're going to see it. But that to me is not fair. It's just like if a music artist, let's say a major music artist, is saying some things that you don't like. For example, if you don't like something that Kendrick Lamar is saying, you're not going to just be able to get a hold of him easily. If you don't like something that you're seeing in movies, you're not going to be able to get a hold of those actors and those directors easily. But again, because YouTubers are so easily accessible, some people think that they can push YouTubers around, and I'm sorry, but no, that's not the way it works. Each YouTuber, content creator, controls their content, and if you don't like their content, you don't have to watch. I say that a lot, and I'm going to keep saying that. You don't have to watch, and if you don't like what your children are seeing, don't allow them to watch it. But please stop trying to push YouTubers around, trying to dictate how they run their channels. No, that's not the way it works. And because they focus on collectibles, that doesn't automatically make them a child-friendly channel. You need to basically screen that content and see what's going on. If you don't like what's going on, you don't have to tune in, and you don't need to allow your children to tune in. That's really just what it comes down to. Now, personally, on my own channel, I have chosen to try to keep things as clean as possible. And that's just because, I have a day job. So I'm thinking in terms of, my profession, and just on a professional level, never know who could come across my videos, so just in terms of being professional and keeping that focus on my day job, that's why I choose to run my channel the way I do. But I'm not going to tell anybody else that focuses on collectibles, oh, you better keep it clean. No, that just doesn't make any sense to me personally. But those are pretty much my thoughts on this topic. I know it kind of strayed there at the end, but yeah, like I said, people that are trying to say, certain people are too old for collecting, I'm sorry, but there is not a cutoff on having fun. Adults are allowed to have fun. That's really what it comes down to. Adults are allowed to have fun. They are allowed to spend their money that they earn the way that they want to. They are allowed to use their time the way that they want to. And if you have a problem with an adult being an adult, just stay away from them. Don't interfere, though, because again, interfering with other people's fun is just hating. And like I said, especially as long as it is something that is not dangerous, it's not hurting anybody, cut out the nonsense. There's no reason to be hateful. But yeah, again, those are my thoughts on this topic. I definitely want to hear feedback. If there's any feedback that is very immature and rude, of course, I am going to block those individuals, because I want to put this out there too. I know some people may wonder why sometimes, I'm a very positive person for the most part, but every once in a while, I'll be very bluntly honest with you all, and I'll say some things that I know people will not like. Basically, what I call that doing is purging. This is something I do intentionally. It's not a mistake. I know what I'm doing. And basically, there are certain types of people I don't need on my channel. People that don't like what I'm doing, then why are you here? If you have an issue with what I'm doing, then why are you here? If you're jealous of what I'm doing, why are you here? Basically. So yeah, anybody that's being negative like that, and especially people that want to nitpick what I do as well. If I put hours into a Funko News video and you're just trying to look for one error to point it out, I don't need you here. I am not all about the numbers. I'm about keeping a positive channel. So yeah, certain people just got to go. So again, that's why I do these types of things, so that I can purge those negative elements out of the way. So yeah, like I said, what I'm doing is not on accident. There is a purpose to it. And I know some people want me to keep it 100% positive, but every once in a while, I think a little purge is necessary, but yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Like I said, I hope to hear some thoughtful, well thought out responses that are respectful, and I definitely will check those out. And I'm not necessarily going to get back into doing these type of videos on a regular basis, but I just felt like this is one that was necessary, especially in light of some of my YouTube friends recently coming under heat for certain things, which is just ridiculous, But yeah, again, those are my thoughts on the topic. Thank you all so much for taking the time to check this out, and I will talk to you all again real soon.